Hi, hope you guys are doing well. So today we will be looking at weight painting. Now weight painting is basically used for make certain effects affect at certain areas of the object or whatever you want. Weight painting is also used for with a lot of modifiers, particle systems, even physics, and sometimes with constraints as well. But mostly with modifiers. So to use quite a few of the modifiers, you first need to know weight painting, or else you won't be able to fully utilize them. So first things first, I'll open this data tab with you, and to weight paint you have obviously need a little bit of geometry. So let's just go add and shift A, mesh, plane, and let's just scale it a bit, and then tab to go into edit mode, right click, subdivide it a few times because you need a little bit of geometry for this, and tap to go out of edit mode. You can access the weight painting mode by going over this. Before we continue, please consider subscribing. Only 9% of you are actually subscribed. My goal is to reach 2.5k subs by the end of this year, and drop a like and a comment while you're at it. Menu and then going to weight painting, or you can go into control tab and then go back to object mode and control tab from object mode to weight painting mode. Okay, control tab, and then you can click on 7 to go into weight paint mode, control tab, or to go from object mode. So you can obviously have multiple weight groups for multiple purposes on a singular object. Okay, so once I'm in weight paint mode, let me just show you. You can see this vertex group tab. Currently it has nothing in it, so as soon as I make this stroke, you see a group has been created. Now it can either work like this, or I can just click on plus and then another group has been created, and now this group I can paint like this. So as you can see, there are multiple groups. You can obviously rename them. I'll just call this one and this one 2. You can do this for let's just say if I want to make a landscape or terrain, and I want my trees to be planted like in this formation, and I actually want my stones or mountains to be placed over here. So I can just rename this to like mountains, and over here to be trees, to use for different purposes for ease of access. Now as for weight painting itself, you can obviously do it in another way as well. Let me just delete both of these vertex groups, go into edit mode, and let's just say I want something to be painted on just these 4 faces. So I can go ahead and click on plus on this vertex group mode, and as for the weight, if I want the maximum value is 1, the least value is 0. Okay, so let's just say I want it to be painted by this central value, and then I click on assign. Now when I go into weight paint mode, you can see that this value has been assigned over here. So that's one another way of weight painting. But obviously the more options are and you can obviously remove them. You can again select different vertices and keep adding different values to them, but I don't think this is a good option. It's only good if you want absolute values, like you want one for just this part and nothing else. It's actually good for that, but the real options come in the weight painting mode. So as you can see, these are the options related to the weight painting mode. Now I'll just go over the ones that are related. This is an exclusive to weight painting, so these are the weight painting options. So I'll start going over them and how you can use them. The first option, the first and obvious one, is the weight. So let me just show you. If I just click on my mouse and drag, and this red color, this is the highest value, this is 1 value, and the dark blue color, this is the lowest value, this is 0, where there is no weight paint, and the everything in between these values is different values. Like yellow is slightly weaker than red, and blue is this light blue is slightly higher than this dark blue value. Also, you can change the radius of your brush if you want to. Okay, if I raise this, as you can see, now my brush is a lot bigger, and you can click on the mouse and drag to create them. The strength of the brush can also be adjusted. If you have some graphic tablet, you can use this option to weight paint as well. This will make the weight painting a lot more easier. Not necessarily necessary, but it will make your work a lot easier. If you do this, it will detect the pressure of your pen. By mouse, by default, it detects the highest value set by strength and weight. Okay, but if this option is enabled and you have a graphic tablet or painting pen, then it will actually weight paint depending on the amount of pressure you put on your tablet. So I'll just turn this off. For now we're doing the mouse one. You can obviously adjust the weight value. If I lower this, and let me just lower my mouse value, radius value as well. So as you can see, as I lower the value of the weight, it's now painting a different color. It's not going to the red. But if I were to raise this, I can again paint it to red. The strength sort of does the same thing. If I go over here, as you can see, it's still painting on the red. If I go over here and again, it's sort of the same thing. Okay, but the difference is if I click stop and click again, it will keep adding strength until I reach red. But with the weight, if I lower it to 5 and then bump up the strength to 1, I can keep clicking and unclicking and painting, but it won't go over 0.5 value. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. If the strength is set to lower, you can click and click again and again to keep adding more strength until it's red. Okay, but with the weight, if the weight is set to 0.5, it will not add more. Okay, so the maximum value you can get is basically the one that is set over here, but with the strength you can adjust it. If that makes any sense. Then there's the other option. You can mess with different sorts of brushes, but I think going with mix is the best. With the stroke, again, you can actually mess around with these values if you want, but the defaults pretty much work pretty well. For the fall off, if for specific cases, you can actually play around with these. I recommend you to do that for yourself. And as for the cursor option, you can see that my cursor is currently has this pink ring, but if I go ahead and change it to something like blue, now my cursor is blue. It is purely for aesthetic reasons. So let me just clear this all up, and now let me explain. If the strength is set to 0.5, okay, I'm going this over again, but the weight is turned to 1, you can click on once, then you click on again to keep adding more strength. Okay, as you can see now it's at red, which is the highest value. But if I go to strength as 10 and the weight to 0.5, if I click and paint over here and keep trying to paint over it and again and again, but the maximum weight I can achieve is 0.5. but with the opposite settings, I can achieve the highest weight. So that's that. Now with the other options, this is the blur one, and blur blush, and again their settings, the same settings. You can again play around with these, and if I start doing this, you can see that it's sort of helping you blend in with the environment to create sort of a gradientish sort of effect, useful for effects where you want to eventually make the effect fade away. Then there is the averaging out one, and it does what the name tells it. It averages out the weight. So it takes all the value, the green, the blue, and the dark blue, and it's averaging out them out. Then there is the smear one. As you can see, it's smearing the values, but also slightly lowering them, like how you would use smear paint or something like that. Then there's the gradient one. You can also follow along one of my tutorials where I use the gradient one to animate a flag without using cloud simulation. So with the gradient one, these two sections appear. With the linear one, I can click and start dragging one, and as you can see, the value keeps increasing. Okay, and slowly fades to the lesser value. Let me just show you with the clear one again. As you can see, it's doing that. But and if I bump up the strength to 100%, you'll see the full effect. As you can see, the highest value, then the lower value, then so on to the point where it's 0. And now there are another setting where the other option is radial. For this one, it was linear, from one side to another. But with radial, it's different. You can click on the central point, and as you can see, the central point is the highest affected area, whereas the other points are slowly fading off. Then there is the sample weight. Let me just do the gradient one again. And with sample weight values, for let's just say you want the specific areas weight, but you don't know what it is, so it's sort of an eyedropper tool, and now I have just clicked it and take their settings, and then I can just use those settings for myself. So that's can be used for that. Now as for the follow-up, I do recommend using these settings. You can again use the default one and actually using these to make your work easier. For the stroke, again, whatever you prefer, because again although the default values will work, you still can use these values to make your work a lot easier. So I hope you guys learned something today. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and watch another one of my videos, as that's how the YouTube algorithm works. It's a small channel and it won't cost you anything. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.